Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Jelani Reid. My guest today is Mr. Oluyemi Mashama. He has spent decades inside systems where power, force, and responsibility are the way they operate. National security, law enforcement, training institutions, education, you name it, Professor O has done it. But what's most interesting to me is not what he teaches. It is the experiences that have made him and forced him to who he is today. This is the blueprint of Oluyemi Mashama.
Nice having you. Nice having me. Me having you. See, sometimes I switch the roles. Let's forget.
So before we even get into it, so would you mind telling us about your name and what does it mean?
Yes, of course. That is normally, I have been blessed with that name, and I'll tell people why I say that. Normally when I go for interviews and stuff, and you're nervous, like a job interview or something like that, they normally ask me the meaning of my name, and that kind of gives me enough time to get myself back in again. But my name, Oluyemi means servant of God or son of God. And my dad always wanted a son first. And he got his son first, and he only lived for a month after, He survived a month, and I came the following year, around the same time that he was born. So, Dad, he looked at it and he said, God gave him back, because it could be fulfillment from God, servant of God. It have different little, just the first meaning there. But he said God gave him the son that he wanted first. And on top of that, too, he was the only one he had born with the eyes color, and then I came with it right after. Because the eyes do run in the family, but most sections of the family only end up with one child that has it.
Right.
So,
That's a double blessing.
Yeah, so, that's how that. So, Oluwiami means fulfillment from God, servant of God. And that's how that came about. Because my dad always wanted names name his children. We take naming very serious in our family. That has meaning and stuff to do with during the period of their birth and all of that. So we take all those things into consideration before we name a child.
That's interesting because we now live in a society and a life where we subscribe names to children just anyhow.
Yeah.
So much so, I remember distinctly a couple of years ago, a different one of our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, their registrar for births and deaths had to send out a release because a parent attempted to name their child syphilis.
It's so funny, but it's serious.
Yeah, no, serious. And so then my follow-up question to that is, so what you're doing, what your family is doing now in terms of putting importance to a name is the outlier in the 21st century context.
Yeah.
So why is there so much of a value and so much an interest in the naming of the children?
So my dad came from back in that time with the whole Black Power movement and all those different things, but also because of his religion too. He's Ethiopian Orthodox. I mean, he was drawn to that even before he changed his name.
Right.
But he changed his name because his original name was Martin Kurtz, which was more the German side.
Right.
And my dad was like, none of us look German.
Probably the eye.
Yeah. So as soon as he turned 18, he changed his name immediately to Runako Rudo Mashama. And he continued that and showed us the importance. And I continued it with my son and my daughter also.
Right.
And you see, sometimes we say it's just a name. But sometimes I don't like to say this, but you have the horror movie Jason and all that kind of thing, and sometimes when you meet people with some of these names and you really realize how they act, and nothing against any Jasons,
Yes.
I know one good one. But I'm saying sometimes we don't understand the energy and the power that naming has. And even if you go back to biblical days and all these times, you realize that naming was something very serious. You don't just take that as, fly by now, we just give the child a name. So all my names have to do with the process and my journey from that whole birth. So like my second name, Chiombo, it means small creation because I was born premature, 7 months. And the baby pampers used to fit me, the small pampers was fitting me by my chin. So everything has to, and I think I embodied it. Mashama, our surname means you are surprised. And most people, when they meet us and like they hear the fields that we are into and the things that we are doing, they're like, wait now, you used to do that? You is so and so, because it just, I think it just gives us energy, it gives us spirit. And we don't tell anybody else the name before we tell the child the name. So like my son is Menelik, which was the first male emperor of Ethiopia.
Right.
And son of a king. So people say, but look here, me just want to say he's a king, but that was not the real reasoning. When my son was born in San Fernando Hospital and he was in the hospital, people were coming to see other children. And for some strange reason, they were ending up by his area. And for me, it went back to the time of the birth of Jesus and that kind of thing and how, people were just attracted to him.
Yes.
So I said, you know what? He has to get a king name. He has to get, so Emperor Menelik. And that was the son of King Solomon and Queen Sheba. So, and he acts that way most times. That kind of vibe about him. But we take it very serious. My daughter is Malkia, which means queen.
Right.
And she acts like the queen. So I think it is important that we really study and think about what we are doing, because this is something that is left with you forever. And also the men do the naming in our family, and it's not because of you want to be no patriarchal or nothing like that. But the mother carries the child for 9 months, and that is the connection that the child has with the mother for life. That we can't take away from that.
Correct.
So the naming of that child is one of the very few opportunities, and people may disagree, for the father to really have a serious input and connection. Because, when you hear my son or my daughter say, hey, my dad gave me this name.
Yes, it's a sense of pride.
Yeah, it's a sense of, that connection and that love and that bonding. So we take it very serious in our family as it relates to naming and the importance of naming.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
You know what is also a story from what you're talking about so far is that not being afraid to accept one's identity.
Correct.
Especially in the world where we are all trying to be common or trying to subscribe to some notion as to how one must act or behave or somebody else's culture. And it tends to happen a lot with our people where, because, for example, like my name, Jelani, it's not English.
It's not English.
It's
correct,
right?
correct, yes.
I was named after my deceased aunt, right? And what my mom initially wanted to name me, I thank God my aunt named me. But going back to the point where, as we move on 2025 now in 2026 and go beyond, there is a need for accepting one's truth, authenticity, and identity.
That's the word. You see that authenticity, that is lacking. Everybody wants to be something and someone else. And you don't want to accept the strengths that you have. And, sometimes people try to demonize you and make you feel like, people say, but go and change that name or you get that stupid name. And I'll be like, listen, nobody tells a Chinese person that their name is stupid. Nobody tells an East Indian person their name is stupid. And even English persons, who they have the names that embody who they are. And as soon as, and again, sometimes people take it the wrong way, as soon as an African person accepts, now I could understand why sometimes a problem, because some people have African names and they don't even understand why they have it or where they got it from. I remember my doctor at the time, he's Nigerian, and he said to me, the first in earlies, he said, what are you doing with that name? Oluwiami. You don't even know what that means. And I watched him. He said, so if I call it Ulu, I say, you change the meaning. Ulu means preeminent. So he dressed back. He said, so I said, I know what I'm doing. I don't have something that I don't understand. So it's about having the information to be able to really stand up for what you have and not just say, well, I'm African, so I have this name. That is not what it's about. But it's really accepting who you are, and it doesn't take away from anybody else's culture or what they do. It doesn't take away. It's not about using it to depress or downplay anybody else, but it's just understanding who you are and accepting it.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. One of the things that you always say is that knowledge is not information, it's protection.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, this is displayed in something as simple. Well, I'm saying it's simple, but something just in a name.
Yeah.
Carrying on the conversation, when did you first realize that knowledge is more than just information, but it's protection?
This happened, I think it happened when I was traveling at a time, and I'd now joined the police service back then, and I was working at the police academy, and I wanted to elevate and move forward in the studies that I was doing. So I saw this program, this course was happening in the US, and I decided I just going and do it on my own. I'm not going to even ask for help anyway, I'm just going to find myself there. And I went to the course. It was the first time, I think that was the first time I went to, it was the first time I went to the US, not going to visit my dad or anybody else. I was just going to do this program, so I was by myself. So it was the first time traveling outside of just the plane ride.
Right.
And moving around on my own. And I arrived at the hotel, and typical Trinidadians, what's the first thing we start to look for? Food.
Yes. Yes.
We go in and look for food. So I arrived there not knowing anybody or anything, and I just started to walk around. So walking around now, I find everybody looking at me strange.
Right.
But I ain't studying that. I looking for food. I
Yes.
went in this Chinese place, I buy some Chinese food, because I said, all right, and this, I know Chinese, I could eat this.
Yes.
And when I reached back to the hotel, the guy at the desk was like, Mr. Man, did you do any research before you come here? Did you check what you're doing before you came here? And I said, no, well, it's in America, I come to do a course. He said, sir, do not leave this hotel again by yourself. So I was like, but I don't understand that. He said, when the persons who are keeping this program come back, anything you want to do, go with them or order food and let them drop it here. And I did not realize that I was in a part of the US that I could have gotten myself in some serious trouble because of my color. I did not know that, and I wouldn't go into the details of where and when and whatever. But I did not know that because, I mean, this was not back in the day. Mm-hmm. This is,
Yes, yeah.
And yeah, so that is where my journey started, on that of understanding the importance of knowledge. And even as I go into scripture and, you go deeper into my spiritual side, I started to realize that, it's not just about protection, it's not just about the physical protection. And that is when I started to change even how I look at my martial arts and the things that I do in that space. It's not just about the physical technique. And everything I do in life now, I realize that it's connected: mental, spiritual, physical. Mental, spiritual, physical. It's not just about doing the technique physically. It's about having the knowledge, having the information, understanding where to strike, why to strike, when to run, when not to run, when to speak, when not to speak, how to speak. And that is why I call my system science, because I've really been able to embody not just the physical part of it. I mean, I can boast that I'm must be one of the very few martial artists in this country that actually has PhDs. So, and not just academically, but I also have a doctorate in martial sciences from an organization in Japan and through the US. So I always try to tell my students, it's not just about having that physical strength, because there are times that will fail.
Correct. Now, it's interesting what you're saying, because you're now bringing knowledge and moving knowledge away from just knowing the basics, mm-hmm. or having a fair idea
Correct.
Of something. And you're now telling us that in the pursuit of knowledge and in the pursuit of that protection, what it calls upon you is to think and know almost every aspect of that thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
But Professor O, let's really accept reality. The reality is now, unless you are considered an expert, meaning such as a PhD in martial arts, one does not really expect any individual to do that in-depth research. And you see it not only carried in career paths, you see it carried along in terms of as an individual as well. So, for example, being the host of this podcast, one would expect that, well, sorry, the usual thing is just the host comes sit down and carry on the conversation, right? And don't know what you're saying, that, it's more than that.
Yes.
You should know about why the mic has to be at this
Distant.
direction from my
Yes,
mouth.
yes.
I have to know about the lighting. I have to know about the cameras. And
Yeah.
why is that important?
Again, so let's just say, for instance, right, you are the host of this podcast. I'm sure that you are investing in it in some way or the other. So I'll go from that point first. The way the equipment is set up and used could either give a longer time for usage or lesser time for the usage based on what you do, how you use it. That's one.
Right.
The other side of that now, say tomorrow your staff decide we going to boycott Blueprint. We go in and boycott. We go tell them we go be there, and then we show up. We don't show up. So your guest is here.
And I'm a staff and do my that.
No, I'm not
I
even
know, I'm
saying,
joking.
but I'm understanding. So,
Yeah.
so you now don't even know how to set up your own equipment, at least minimum. I'm not saying in that case you're supposed to know everything, but you're supposed to have an understanding of, good, right, at least I could put the 3 cameras here, because again, your guest is taking time to be here, your credibility at that point in time. Some people take things differently. You don't know what somebody may have given up to come here, the mindset. And then they show up there and you say, well, my staff didn't show up. And they be like, but so you don't know how to set up your own camera? You don't know how to put a light up at least? You don't have to just put the... So it's going to cause you mental stress. It's going to cause you physical stress. It might cause some spiritual stress. You don't know what kind of mental the person is going to send and say, you see me, I go send some negative energy towards Jelani. That show will never make it. All these different things. And the physical aspect of it, let's just say somebody now comes into this space in a negative way. What can you use in the space here to help protect or defend yourself? As simple as it may be the mic. How could you use that mic as a weapon if needed? The table as a weapon or blockage or cover, concealment. Your iPad, your glasses. How could you now use these things to defend? So I always tell people, everything you do, consider it on a mental, spiritual, and physical plane. How is this affecting those areas in everything you do?
Okay. So I accept that.
Yeah.
And I accept that there's a need for, I guess, career-wise.
Yeah.
If you're engaging in engineering, so you don't only study the theory of it, you know what the technician has to do.
Yeah.
You know what, you have an idea of what they have to do.
And you don't have to be in depth as
Right.
they are. But
Yes.
at least.
Right? I appreciate that. But there's something as well that you said which is very interesting. You said that, and using my example of the time the guests took, and I would tell you something, Professor O. It's only as I have reached this stage of my life and in another organization that I'm a part of, and where you see the elders, where it is that you see the elders taking their time, to just have a conversation. Right?
Yes.
Or prepare something for you so that you can benefit from their education, right? Or their wisdom, their experience. But to be honest, nowadays we will only appreciate somebody buying an iPad and gifting that to us, but we don't value the time, the gift of time from people. What are your thoughts on that?
And I think that is where we are losing a lot, especially in the areas of our youths. They don't value, they don't understand time and the importance and what time does for you and what it could do for you. We see our children, our grandchildren, the youths now sitting down for just hours and just staring at a computer. And it's not that, sometimes I try to tell the youths, I said, listen, I have no problem with you sitting down and playing a game or staring at a computer for a certain amount of time, But the person who invented that game and all that, they're making money off of you doing that. Are you even trying to investigate how can I make a life out of this? Or am I just sitting there and turning into a zombie? And It's only when you reach older you realize how important. You look back and you say, I could have done something different with that time. What could I have done different with that time? And as you say, the elders now, because of the other organizations and things that you belong to, will sit and talk to you. And sometimes we try to talk to our youth, but they are in a microwave society. They have gotten accustomed to things happening now.
Yes.
So I put the popcorn in, and in 2-3 minutes, I have popcorn. Back in the day, we had to go and buy the popcorn, put the oil in the pot, put the popcorn with the salt in the pot, all this drama. What it did, it taught you delayed gratification. And in having delayed gratification, it taught you to appreciate things more. So when you buy that first popcorn that you took that time to make, you would sit down on a Sunday with your family and watch a movie and enjoy it. Now you would see a child will throw a popcorn in the thing, microwave. In 2 minutes it pop. They might take out the bag, take 2, eat it, and then the bag end up there and it in the dustbin. Because you know why? It wasn't a process. They didn't go through the making process. So now I could just throw back the next one for 2 minutes again. But somebody took time to package that popcorn, to get it to where it is now, to make your life a little easier, to sit back and just reflect. The time you are taking to go through the process is reflecting. It's giving you the opportunity to get stronger mentally, because now I have to sit down and say, oh, Coach, I have to wait. I have to pay attention to the pot, because if it thing, and one time popcorn burn and the whole pot blacken and mess up, and then your mother swinging as licks. Now with the popcorn in the bag, it burn, you throw it in the dustbin because it's just a bag of popcorn that damaged. So people are no longer taking time to pay attention to life, to their surroundings, to their environment. They don't have an attitude of self-preservation in a real way. They don't have an attitude of self-realization, actualization, gratification. Everything is just about getting it done now. And we are losing that, not realizing it also creates a deficit in the way our socials works.
Don't you find it interesting that in the advancement of our pursuits, so we are trying to make things as easy as possible for the next generation. We are seeing it as changing small micro things. So for example, now you don't have to teach your child how to pop popcorn anymore. You just buy the butter, right?
The butter lovers.
The butter lovers.
Yes.
But not realizing that in the process of changing that small thing, how much of an impact you're having both on the child as well as the community and society as a whole.
And the world on the whole.
So Professor O, what other small micro things that we have changed from your point of view and your field that you think that as either we are paying the price for it now, starting to, or we're going to begin to pay the price for it?
Again, I'll go back to my youths as much as possible. And even when because we're talking about safety
Yes.
In a big way, I think because of the advent of some simple things as, not having to walk up to your car again and turn the key in the car to push the key to open the door. It may seem simple, but now I could just press from a distance and open my car, or I just walk up to the car and just pull the door and it will open. But again, these things are now taken away from our survival instincts. The fact that we no longer spend time in discussion at the dinner table. Sundays used to be lunch days. Your grandparents used to tell you when you're done church, well, you had to go to church. When you finish church and you come back home, we having lunch as a family. It had no phones on the table. So now you don't even know what is happening with your child. They are talking to AI. And again, anybody who knows me know I'm not against these things. But are we going to allow these things to take away our humanness, who we are, and now take control in a way that we just drop our guard and everything? I looking at sometimes people going to church now, and people tell me, Professor, you always dressing up to come to church. Church is something, I'm going to spend time with my Creator. And anybody know me, I like to dress. But I always remember, hey, that's what the thing is Sunday best. You put on your Sunday best to go before the Lord.
Lord.
And now you're seeing children and adults going to church with a polo jersey. They're going to church with a polo jersey and a jeans. And we go say, well, you know, it's about the heart. Listen, if you had one dress outfit at least, when you look good, you feel good, it gives you that motivation to want to do better. You see the difference in the way people look at you, the way people respect you. And yes, people should not respect you for how you look. But think about when women do the hair and when we take a trim.
Yes.
When we take a trim, naturally.
Yeah, you do.
And I'm going to put it a little simple. When you wash your car, for some strange reason, the car like it has performed better. You know? and you know, people, we don't look at these simple things anymore. So these little things that we are giving up, like somebody told me the other day, your car is a wheelchair, and they're very correct, you know, because you're sitting in a wheelchair, right? So we don't even want to walk again and enjoy nature.
Yes.
You don't even want to watch a little butterfly pass.
Correct.
By.
Yeah. If you have the opportunity to see a butterfly.
So I think we have to learn how to, everything is about managing and working with what is happening, not giving up your birthright and the things that the Creator put you here to do and to be. It's no longer, man was supposed to have dominion over. Now you are realizing everything is having dominion over man now.
Yeah.
And we're not understanding that we are losing
Our
humanity by doing that.
Correct.
You know, so.
And interestingly, that we are paying the price for it as well.
Yes.
So you have, throughout our conversation, there are certain themes that are always popping up. So you discipline, structure, and structure in terms of even hierarchy, as you would speak about the ancestors and what our forebears, right, and what they would have laid, and maintaining that structure. And to be quite honest with you, Professor O, most persons in the Trinidad and Tobago or Caribbean context knows about that.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I remember seeing a video the other day, a reel, where an American-born citizen was talking about her experience growing up under Caribbean nanny, Caribbean daddy or babysitter or whatever. And the starting comment was, but listen, Caribbean parents different, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, that is because of the standards that we have set, right? My question to you, being a structured individual as you are, and somebody who is very much into systems to bring the outcome, was there ever a situation where you were a part of, let's say, an organization or a part of a team or some grouping where you came to the realization that these systems are not producing the outcome that at least I became a part of it? How did you deal with something like that?
Yes. And for me, I eventually moved away because I think I could have done more from the outside. So I gave it the time. I didn't just give up after a few years or whatever. I gave almost 20-something years of my life to the organization. Right. But then I realized that I was in the wrong place. You know, and as we're talking about that, because I'm not no perfect system, man. I have a lot of chaos in I have a lot of madness in the method in some things because I function better under pressure in a lot of areas. But because I understand that we sometimes put systems in a category, not understand that even in madness there are systems, you know. You know, so, but here's where that realization came to me as to why it is important to still try to function within the ambit of some kind of structure. I have a daughter, she's 7. When she was about 4 or 5, a day she would ask for things. And again, it was my first time having a daughter. So you know daddies and their daughters.
Yes.
You know, I just want to give her whatever she's asking for. And a day she came to me and she asked for something. And I said, yeah, go ahead and take it now. She went and got it, eat it. And then when she finished, she came back and she said, Daddy, you know, you can tell me no sometimes. And that hit me like a big truck. Because this is a 4 or 5-year-old. And this goes back to even when we're talking about what is happening in the youths with youths now. we believe that the only way to get them to have that emotional intelligence and all these things is to allow them and to sit and have discussions with them all the time and don't put structure to things sometimes. She was 4 or 5. So now up to at 7 now, I remind her every time. No, I'm not. It's not that I go drastic and I say, well, I say no for everything. Yeah. No, but now I know. Hey, I'll say no, and she just be. She say, okay, daddy, and she will move on, because we have lost that. Our grandparents, they may have taken it to on our parents, they may have taken it to the extreme in some cases. But I was having a discussion recently with a guy, and he was asking, we need to bring back some of these things, but we have to understand where discipline stops and abuse starts. And that is where we need to, because now we are taking away totally all the discipline, or we are going totally abuse. We have to find that middle ground to understand that discipline is important, especially in our young boys who are going to be men. Our boys are suffering a lot out there, and we are not seeing the men stepping up. And I do like to use the word real men, because everybody, so long as you're male, was born a real man. It's how you manage the tools that you were given and how good you learn to use the tools you were given based on experiences, based on the persons that you had around you, and all these different things. So yes, I was a part of an organization that I found this wasn't making sense in the way the things were going, the structures were going. But again, in our Caribbean, in diaspora sometimes, we see where mediocrity is being accepted all the time in a lot of, you see people who just are coming to work and are doing what I had to do here, but nobody wants to go that extra time again because they always feel it has to be, you have to get the payment now. It must, if I don't get something tangible now, not understanding the importance of planting that seed and what it could grow into the future for your children, grandchildren, and your legacy.
You have given me and given us a lot to take in there. So we're going to take it into some parts here. And I want to begin by where you started, actually, and that's the experience with parenting.
Yeah.
And that concept. Now, to be a parent in 2026, that's not an easy feat at all. And because there are a few things that you have to accept. Now, one, the rules that or the rules of engagement
yes.
Of yesteryear may not necessarily apply now.
No, totally.
The next thing, Professor O, back then there was no way your 4 or 5-year-old daughter could have
I couldn't tell my parents that.
Correct.
Yes.
So you even see that evolution,
sure.
Because one of the things, as much as persons may or society may kind of come down on our young persons, there are things that we have to credit them for.
Correct.
They have no issue in speaking their mind, right? So you always have an idea as to their level of thinking. There seems to be some level of independence as well, and they are very quickly getting into their rules and functions, right? So to be honest, that level of behavior, back then you tend to see with your teenage going into adolescence, children. Now you're seeing it as younger. Yeah. Now, there's another aspect of parenting as well. There's a statement that says, there's no book to teach you about parents, and that's a fact. Yeah. It's not that there's no parenting book. There's just not a book written for you and your circumstance.
Yes.
Let's go to the end result. A child has grown up. You, as a parent, you believe that you would have given them or supported them with every single thing possible. And yet still that child has, basically turned their back and say, whatever, you're the worst, that type of thing, etc., etc. And as a parent now, reflecting on that, you believe that, probably I was the worst. But as I really did try my best. So what message do you have for parents now in 2026? Young parents or parents with their first children or parents in a whole, how does one prepare? What is it that there is some rules that probably some people just don't get, or how do you know that you're doing the right thing?
And that's the problem. You never know if you're doing the right thing. You have to do the best you can do. Plant the seeds that you plant the positive seeds. Put the strengths in there. Put it in there. But this is what I like to kind of bring this back to sometimes, right? Human beings, all of us, are naturally selfish. We are selfish beings. And people tell me, no, you can't say we're selfish. And I always ask this question. If you reach home after a very long day, and you go to your children, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever, and you just say, son, I love you. Honey, I love you. And they don't respond. Or just say, okay, and they continue about their business. How do you feel?
I waste my time and get that again.
And that is where the selfishness comes in. If I am giving you something, if I am telling you I love you, that is because that's how I feel at this point. But that is not what happens most times with us as humans. Most times we say we love you when we want to hear it back. So that's the only reason why it affects us that way. We hardly say we love you because we just want to tell you. So if if every day I come and I tell you I love you and you ain't responded, that's something different. But at that point in time, my child may be going through something different that I don't understand yet. I ain't know what's going on yet. So we have to get out of our space of ourself in that case. We have to stop studying what do I want out of this at this point. If my child come now and tell me I is the worst, I will just say, and this is hard to do, I will say, son, because he's the adult, son, I understand. Daddy did his best with what he knew, right? I loved you the way I must be wanted to be loved, and that is the next mistake. We sometimes love and teach the way we wanted to be loved and the way we wanted to be taught. Because you hear parents say, I didn't have this when I was small, and I want them to have that. Is that what the child wanted? And we're not talking about on a general level if a child wants a car. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about emotionally. What I need emotionally is different from what you need emotionally. What I need physically is different from what you need physically and spiritually and otherwise. And so I tell parents, get out of yourself and find out what this child needs. Be able to sift out now in a discussion-wise or the way you do things, what may be the negative thing they may think they need or want, and try to guide around that. But don't try to love a child the way you want it to be loved. That is not the same thing that they may want at the point in time. And it may sound a little weird, but it even happens in relationships. I think, and you hear sometimes a woman say, well, I never asked her that. I didn't want that. Because you may feel, well, you buying roses and you doing this and you taking her out and you're working hard, and the woman might tell you, I just wanted your time. Or the man may say, I just wanted you to just lie down next to me and rub my foot a little 2 minutes. And it may sound strange because you may think, well, this is what I wanted. We had to have the discussions. Unfortunately or fortunately, we are dealing with youths and children now who we have to speak to because of what you said. They are different. They see things and they are exposed to more. So it's like we pouring things down a child. A child is exposed to things that we didn't have to see. We didn't have no TV back then. We didn't have this. They are now exposed. So we no longer can tell you, hey, well, Santa Claus does come down the chimney and you living in the Caribbean and you know you're on a chimney. And you get a gift Christmas morning and you say, well, Santa Claus come down the chimney. And you're like, children now will say,
they're calling you
Daddy,
out
what you telling me? Who my daughter tell me? She said, you're not feeling well today. And I remember her grandparents and they used to say she rude. I say, you must listen. She has never been disrespectful, but she She speaks out. If something doesn't make sense, she's going to say, Dad, I don't understand this. So we have to be open to having the discussions, not compromising in every area. Because remember, they are still children, they are still young. And they may not because a child could drive a car, it might mean they understand the rules of the road.
Correct.
They might be able to drive, but they might not understand yet, well, I'm supposed to stay on the left, or I'm supposed to this, or I'm supposed to do a signal. They might not understand, but they could drive. They might be able to drive very well. So our job is to guide the process and be able to navigate with them that journey that they are now going through, as we are also continuing on our journey. We cannot just tell them, this is the way it used to be, and we're doing it so. No, long time. We had to go on full water. There was so we were going to send a child with a bucket now for what? Just for wickedness?
Yeah.
If I do it, I'll do it in martial arts class to help strengthen your arms or something. And we had to be able to explain to them now because they question.
Yes.
We didn't question. We would shut up and go.
Yes.
They question, and we have to be okay with them questioning, and we have to not take it that it's a attack on our ego, on or who we are. It's just how they are seeing it because they did not understand or might not have understood. This morning I was coming up and a guy called me and he was asking about vision and mission.
Right.
And we were talking and he said, Professor, thanks for being open because now I see it differently. I didn't understand. Children, youths nowadays, when you talk to them, some of the worst people tell they're the worst child. And I sit down and we had some real good conversations. And I call them, they call me, and we still up to now.
Would you believe I actually find that those conversations are more interesting
Yes.
than the child that,
That
tends
child
to...
no, but then most of the time the child who's 10, they're playing it safe, they're not being real with you.
Yeah.
That's why parents sometimes, that is not my child. You ever go and watch your child when you're not around? So we have to be able to have the discussions and take ourselves
Out of the
picture.
Correct.
And have. So I sit with my daughter and we talk. My children, we talk. I sit, sometimes I go back into my zone and say, see that? That is stupidness. And then I come back and sit down and discuss. But we have to ask them, like I'm going to deal with a situation tomorrow and my plan is to ask, how can I help you to help me for you to be better? Let's have the discussion. And then you'll give me a list of things and I might say, okay, here's what. This makes sense, so we could work on this. This might be a little off. This is why.
Right. Yes.
We have to have, parents don't say don't talk to them. We have to talk to them.
Correct, yes.
Emotional intelligence is a serious thing in these times.
Correct. And so, and I just want to extend it just slightly. Now, let's look now from a societal perspective. Whereas this is not a Trinidad and Tobago problem alone. This is Caribbean worldwide.
Yeah.
Where we are seeing our young men probably in 2026 would have had the most amount of opportunities by virtue of education, by virtue of skills training, etc., etc. But yet still, statistically, this grouping is the one that have a tendency of causing the most amount of issues or problems, right? We have done interventions as a society by virtue of social intervention programs, counseling, and while there's a sense now of really pushing very hard on enforcement of law. But the reality is that, all these things tend to be stopgaps, right? Putting plasters on the problem.
So, yeah.
So what can we do as a community, as a society, to begin to address this problem?
We have to be consistent. We have to stop. If we have the elephant, we have to start to if you had to cook the elephant in pieces and don't try to, we want to cook the foot, cook the head, cook the tail at the same time. Because something, I was told once and I always remember this, every yes is a no to something else. Every time we say yes to something, we say no to something else. Our young men need consistency. There's not that. Where they are getting it is on the other side. The positive role models and the positive motivators and the positive men in society, they're too busy most times, and I'm like myself, we're too busy we had to do so much. but we have to be consistent. So even if we sit with them and we say, listen, I'll give you all an hour every day, we have to be consistent with the hour. We can't just run a program, a one and done, and then we don't see you all for the next 10 years again, and it's hard. But this is the cry that I've been getting from our young men. In all my interactions, we go to schools, and they said, sir, when we could see you again, and then with all the rules now, you can't even give them your number, you can't this, you can't that. So sometimes it's like, well, I want to give you my number, but the rule says I can't give you my number, because a lot of these young men they really want somebody to be able to guide them, They want the guidance. But when the positive people are not around to do it, they will go the negative way. Because let's be honest, the gangsters and these guys are the guys that they see every day. Joe, come. Why you home? Well, I have no shoes. Check me tomorrow. Or hold this. Look sneakers. Look this. Go to school, Go to school. But then, everything you want something back. They want something back in the future. And they will have to pay back. Consistency. That is the cry that I've been hearing from our young people, our young men especially. They are asking for consistency and access to the right people and the right things.
Don't you find it interesting with your example? I want to pitch another example. So a couple of years, when schools were permitted to have swimming classes, I believe a child drowned at that time. And the response was that we stopped swimming. And really and truly, that is where we should have doubled down on it, because what is the purpose of swimming classes is to prevent that same thing, right?
Correct.
And now as a society, we are seeing a prevalence of a lot of persons now that we are a hiking, everybody's hiking these days, and, drowning. But, there's a consistency in the themes that we have been speaking about.
Yeah.
Discipline, structure, consistency, and it goes, I guess, right back to ASMA, your organization, and martial arts. And it also gives me a insight into your mind. So it's not surprising that Professor O went down this direction, right? Because there is a consistency in in every sphere of your life that you have been in. So tell us about ASMA. Tell us about why did you believe that martial arts can be used as an avenue? Sorry, I am being presumptuous here. I believe that you'd have seen it as an avenue to solve some of these.
You are very correct.
So tell us about that.
So I came from a family. Well, my dad is a martial artist. He has been doing martial arts for maybe over 60 years now. And this saved him. Born in Laventille area, he grew up in that and started in martial arts. He used to get bullied in school. And I remember, he said, this is his story, and then I'll give you mine. He used to get bullied in school, and these classes that he started with back then came to do a demonstration in the school when he was younger. So he was in cadets, and so he saw that, and he gravitated it, and he joined. And in fact, that's what he do up to this day. That is what has given him his living. He's in the US. He has a martial arts school over there and stuff like that. So I grew up in it. Out of all the children, I was the weakest. I was the smallest. I used to consider myself an embarrassment to my father because of his level and the respect he had in martial arts. But because he is there in it, my sisters and them used to be doing push-ups and things, and I used to be struggling. Again, I was born premature too, no excuse. But for me, being around it and going to school in some rough areas, I went to school Nelson Street Boys, Success Laventille, Mokarapo. Those were the schools that I went to. I have the opportunity of going, as people say, the prestige schools. So, we used to have to travel on our own and all these different things. And being in martial arts, if I was not in martial arts developed that mind for me. And the persistence of me wanting to know, it started off as a way I tried to please my father first because I wanted to show that I could be as good as the other children. And I remember my sister would just go to a tournament and win. I used to have to fight for it, really fight, push. But it helped me develop focus and determination to want to be better, want to do better, want to be a better person. And it was a distraction for me away from the other things that was existing. I mean, besides my father being a martial artist, I had no choice to go. So when my friends line me on a Friday in Frederick Street, consult me and all them, I had to go to class. You know, and you see me and my father walking, going up the road, I have to go to class. But it really helped guide me away from that negative life. People tend to believe, well, oh, you're teaching you to fight. Martial arts is not about teaching you to fight. In fact, it's actually the opposite. You have the tool to be able to defend yourself and survive, but it's about that development of that mind. As you know, we say in martial arts, it's only 10% physical. The 90% is mental, spiritual in martial arts. When you have to sit in a horse stance for an hour and something, you get to learn things about yourself that you didn't know. When you have to write an essay to get your black belt, 2-3 essays, and you have to write an essay and talk about what you want to be in the future, how you see yourself in the next 5 years, this, that, you have to really, and then you have to be able to be getting good grades to also help you elevate. So, and I'm talking from this, where I came from, this is how, and I continue this way now. Your grades have to be aligning with your rank and your promotions. And it's not just about academic grades. Whatever you choose to do, if you're doing woodwork, be good at it. Because it gives you problem solving skills. It teaches you to control yourself. A guy at a time when I was younger, and I now got my black belt, slapped me in my face with a dirty rubber slippers.
Disrespectful.
That dirty rubber slippers slapped me. I was a black belt already. And tell me how much people could walk away from something like that. And people say, well, you could have beat him up. Yes, but where might I have been today? I might have killed him. I might have ended up in some kind of situation. But these things were able to continue to keep me steadfast, sturdy, focused on my goals. He's not even around today because he continued to go down the road he was going down.
Yeah.
I always tell people I'm not going to let anybody block my blessings. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to, if he had slapped me with his slippers and next time again, then I would have realized you're trying to make this into something that is a pattern. I would have had to deal with it a different way. But it teaches you negotiation skills, critical thinking skills, conflict management. All these things come out of being a martial artist. Excuse. It teaches you to really walk the path of life. As it said, don't ask for a straight road, ask for strength. Don't ask for the road to be straight. Because if the road's straight, it's boring. You ain't going to learn to navigate corners. Ask for the strength to be able. So martial art has really built me. I remember learning to do, I want to do weapons. And one of my first weapons was the sai. And the sai heavy. The sai is like, God, which one of the turtles use it, boy? Like a fork, the long piece in the middle, and then the two pieces coming out like that.
All right.
So it's a straight piece, long,
right.
And then the two to the side, and then you have a handle.
Right.
So I forget which one of the Ninja Turtles use it. One of the Ninja Turtles use it. But it's a heavy, it's metal. And I want to use that first. And before I touched that, it was months of push-ups and sit-ups and finger push-ups and all these different things.
Preparation.
Again, delayed gratification because I want to really be able to use it. So I had to go through the making process. God always puts us through a making process in order to give us the blessing we want at the end.
And probably that's what we have forgotten.
We have.
You know, what is also interesting is so I'm going to bring it into education.
Right.
So, we tell all our young people, by virtue of our system, they must learn math, English, and other subjects. And people take it that you are learning the content. So in mathematics, it's calculus or geometry or how to measure something. But that has never been my view on subjects at all, So I will bring it to mathematics. So I used to teach in a youth group for the members of my community. And when we're teaching them like angles and those things, preparing them for essay, to me it was never about what the syllabus said you had to teach, What was more important was the skills. So mathematics, it teaches you how to problem solve. So for example, I remember teaching them in Standard 5. I say, I know that when you see the worded problem, you get afraid, right? Let me tell you something, just start. And you'd realize that when the little 1% of the thing that you may know, when you start the process, you will reach to the end. You will start to unlock doors. But if it is that you just read it and oh God, I know what to do, it's 0 marks.
0 marks.
You understand? And those are the life skills that I think that probably we should start to be more intentional. In our system, English, it teaches you how to articulate yourself.
Correct.
It may not it has nothing to do about necessarily subject-verb agreements. You understand? It's more of, you went to Morang Waterfall and you could tell your partner, no, hey, look out this experience.
And while you're speaking it, they could be seeing it.
Exactly.
Yes, they could actually see it.
Correct. And it comes right back to what you are saying about martial arts. People believe it's all about just getting the fighting.
The belt.
But what the skills really, what you are showing me, you have learned restraint. You have learned as well how to really look at a situation in its full sum. You have also taught us that with delayed gratification, preparation, that if it's something, this is what it is that I want, and then I have to have my plan how to get there.
Emotional intelligence comes out of that a lot. Mathematics. I remember my dad have a good friend, and he's a maths professor in the US. And when my dad gave me the story, when he joined martial arts with them back in the day, he's looking at nerds. He have like these thick glasses and whatever. But he used to be beating everybody. And his maths he used to be using. So when you start to understand the angles and the movements and everything is placed, I put everything in my classes that they're doing in school into the practical, into the academics. And that is why I tell people it's important because my first degree is in education. Right? So I have that background also. People say, where you want to do education? I remember when I was doing it, they're like, where you can do education for? You're a police. You working in the police academy. You need to know them things for. But that is how my mind works. I try to understand all the angles of the thing, the different aspects of it. And martial arts has really done a lot for me, and I've seen it do a lot for a lot of persons. Some of the persons that we watch on TV, and when you hear their story, where they came from, and his martial arts was able to bring them out. Some of they can't read, they can't write in some cases, but martial arts was able to bring them and help them stay on a path that they didn't go down a negative road. So it's not about the fighting. It's not about being, you're teaching them how to fight, and gosh boy, how you gonna bring them in to do that? No, that discipline, when you have the right persons doing it with the right intentions, with the right understanding of what it is, martial arts is an awesome tool to help bring. And then after it gives a release too. Correct. We have to understand that men naturally have the need to want to confrontation in some cases. So I remember sometimes when we have two guys maybe come from two different communities and they may be warring or whatever. And they come in the class and they're training and I'd say, okay, here we're going on. Spar with each other. And when they're done spar with each other, when they're tired, two of them had to spar with me. When they're tired and they're dragging now. And what you see happen, they start to come together. Because now I am the target. So they realize the only way to survive this scenario here, we had to work together. And you see, they hug up and lie down after. And they say, wait, boy. Now, you see, when you break them out of that, you break them down physically, and you go into that emotional, mental state, you realize they say, but wait now. We ain't different from each other, really, But you have to be willing to do the work. So I let them spar, stress out each other, and then I say, right, totally against me now. And we have some fun from there, So it's really, I am going to continue to work towards, and in 2026, you all are going to be hearing and seeing a lot more of what Asthma is doing. I am actually finishing my building not too far from here, and
so I could come and join.
Definitely. And see, I'm going to be doing a lot of work, especially with our young men. You know, and I'm going to be reaching out to the public in some ways too, to say, listen, if every person who joins that could pay, if you pay half of what you're paying, I will put the next half towards bringing in somebody who cannot afford to pay and all that. Because our young boys need the help. We need the help. And anybody know I'm not taking away from anything with the women, but our men and our boys need the help. We need to build back and grow back people's mind and let them understand who they really are. It's not about being macho. It's not about beating up a woman no, it's not about these things. But it's about really building and growing and understanding strength in being humble.
So let's look at now your life.
Yeah.
So started off as a police officer. Now has a
Well, yes, we could go from there.
Yeah. So police officer,
Yeah.
PhD, degree in education, martial arts instructor, as well as a whole plethora of other things, right?
Yes.
Which shows that Professor O didn't stay along a particular path. Professor O would have made adjustments and pivoted, right? And very well, when Professor O started his life at age 18 to the individual that he is now was completely different.
Correct.
And probably is not even the direction that a 18-year-old would have thought.
Never saw that.
Correct.
Never saw it.
Now, the reality is that we are seeing for a lot of persons who would have gone to university, gotten their degree or skills training and gotten their certification. And they identify themselves as this is who I am.
Yeah.
But just as I'm pretty sure with you, knowing that there's something else that I have to offer, I am not feeling fulfilled, right? It is easier said than done. Right, to pivot. My question, how did you know when it was time to pivot, and how was your experience in the changes that you have made?
And my answer to that is I did not know when to pivot. I'm not going to lie. God is a person, and I have God. God continues to guide my life. Every single thing happened to me I thought was coincidence at first. Until I reached age and I realized, but wait now, they think can't be coincidence, because even leaving the police service was one of the scariest things I ever did. There was no reason for me to leave the police service at that time. The day that I officially resigned from the police service is when I had nothing else going on. I didn't even have a next job. All the time that I had other things going on, I didn't do it. I took leave, I went on no pay leave. The day that I remember sending that email and that resignation letter. And after I sent it, I was like, you crazy? What are you doing? But God has continued to guide my path. And when I don't listen, He put things to push me back in the space that I'm supposed. He placed things to happen. Nothing about where I am today was planned. Even my story of how I became a police officer, that was nowhere in my mind. I was renting an apartment in Cleaver. The apartment had nothing in it. It was empty. And I was trying for jobs. I do my studies. I say, well, all right, And a day, it had a radio. And I don't like to tell this story too much because people just feel you're mad. It had a radio in the house that was not working. I met the radio in the house. It was just there. And a day it came on just so, and it was advertising Special Reserve Police. Listen, and I like, but this radio not working. And the radio just came on. And they are advertising Special Reserve Police. And I said, Special Reserve Police? Why do you want to be? People just call them something resembling police and all kind of thing. But I needed something to do. I wasn't getting anything. And I remember going, and I had one outfit. I wore that outfit for every single time I had to go, one dress outfit. So I couldn't afford. Every single time I have to go to drop off documents, do an interview, go the doctor visit, everything, I was in the exact clothes. Same pants, same shirt, same tie, and it wasn't even matching. and I remember going, and when it started, I had no TV, nothing. And I remember the training started. And the landlord was living upstairs. And he was showing me the papers, the newspapers. And I went, in fact, I took the newspaper, the garbage. I just wanted something to read. And read the papers and saw Special Reserve 1,000 strong training starting Piarco on the Wednesday. This was the Thursday. I said, but nobody ain't call me nothing. I could say this story now. I got no call. I put on the same outfit. I packed a bag. I didn't know what was going on. And I walked from Cleaver to Piarco, where the training was happening. And I reached there and I said, I just got a call that I'm supposed to be in this training. I wouldn't call the corporal at the time who was the person there. And he said, you get a call? The only rank I knew at that time was inspector. So he said, who called you? I said, inspector. I can't remember his name, but I said, he called me and I just get so excited and I'm here. And going through the list, my name was on the list to be training and I never got a call. And that was the last day to come into the training.
Wow.
And I went into that training. I trained for, I think with that special reserve training was about 6 weeks or something. So I ate a dollar pie and drank water out of where the pie man, that was man had to wash your hand every single day. I walked from training to La Hocketa. I was living in La Hocketa then. Every time, sometimes somebody see me and give me a little drop. And that's how my journey on that part started.
Wow.
And I have never regretted joining the police service. I think I have a lot to offer to the police service still, but just not from the inside. Not like being how I was before, because of the structure. Mm-hmm. I remember somebody telling me at a time, if you have a PhD now, we'll call you Dr. Constable, and that wasn't making sense. So, but that is how that, and I have a lot more situations like that to tell you how my journey of things that happened, that even my degree in education, how that started, was, I didn't get accepted initially. And I say, well, I walk upstairs. I walk upstairs and see somebody send me. They sent me downstairs to tell there. Nobody didn't send me from nowhere. You know? But
you fake it till you make it.
Yes, sometimes you have to, but again, the right way.
Correct.
And the right way.
Not only that, sir, because as we're winding down,
yes,
it's just a few things I just want to point out. It's a lesson that my sister always speaks about. She said, you know, one of the issues with our society is that when we put persons on a pedestal, for all of us to look up to our heroes and heroine, you know, etc., etc., and we always just hear the good part of their story.
Yeah.
You know, we don't hear about their failures. We don't hear about the mistakes that they would have made. And what we do in the process is rob our citizenry.
Correct.
To say that, hey, I can identify myself with Professor O because I went through, his life is basically my life.
And there's an opportunity.
And there's an opportunity. There's also another thing, and this is, so I am a spiritual Baptist.
Okay,
my uncle is my spiritual father. And in our conversations, is something that we talk about. I said, you know, I'm of the opinion that many of the issues that we have in society is because of the lack of fear for God. And fear, as I said, fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yes.
Right? And we wonder why it is that fear. What is this fear about? Well, that's another discussion. Pulling all of that to say this, that even in my own life, in terms of some of the accomplishments that I have made, had nothing to do with me. Nothing. I was just a passenger in it. And you know, when certain things happen in our lives, is for persons really to embrace it. You know, go with the flow. There's a segment in our program that we call Rapid Bloom. And what it's about is that I'm going to ask you a question, and the first thing that comes to your mind, that's what we want to hear about. So, tell me when you're ready.
Yeah, let's go.
So, Professor O, if you were able to go back in time and to speak to young Professor O, what piece of advice would you give him? a young 8-year-old?
I would tell him he has a good future ahead. I wouldn't tell him to change anything, because everything that I went through is what brought me to where I am today. I wouldn't ask him to change anything. I'll tell him you have a bright future ahead.
And that's a lesson that many of us have to learn. We
Yeah.
always feel if I go back in time and change.
Nah, I wouldn't change anything. Even the so-called bad times, I wouldn't change anything.
Authority or credibility, which is more important?
Credibility.
And why is that?
I think if you are a person that has you have that credibility to you, it gives you naturally the authority will come with it. It will come. I think authority when you have authority without credibility, it goes down a negative road. I think you got to build that credibility first to get the authority.
Fear or ignorance, which is more dangerous?
Ignorance.
And why is that?
When you don't know. You see that lack of knowing? That lack of, somebody told me once, the worst thing is a person who don't know and don't know that they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the worst thing to deal with.
I feel it's bad to tell you that.
That's a lecturer. He said the person that don't know and don't know that they don't know is one of the worst situations they could deal with.
Correct.
So,
Is restraint taught or discovered?
Honestly, I think it's a mix. For me, I think it's a mix. Because it could be taught, could also be discovered. I think it's a mix. I think the mix, if you have a mix of it, you get a better product at the end. Yeah.
Does safety scale without trust?
No. I say no. Trust is important in that situation for safety, yeah.
What's the cost of getting safety wrong?
Your life. Your life.
So, Professor O, if one wants to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
For my phone number, 749-0161. My email, we have asmasta7@gmail, and the same thing at Yahoo. My name, Oluwiami Mashama, on all platforms. You can find me on all platforms. And for now, those are the ways that you could get me. Yeah.
So, listeners of the Blueprint Podcast, there you would have had it. A very interesting conversation with Professor O. And I can say that I didn't get beat up in this conversation.
Well, we didn't even really get to go into much of the
actual martial arts,
the safety part of things, but no, it was good.
And what we were able to learn from this conversation in terms of when we dissect the mind and get to know and get behind the individual, the professor that we know, is that one, as much as you may plan your life and as much as you may have an idea as to where it is that you would want to be, still leave room open for life itself.
Yes.
That you have to remember that you have a creator who is the grand architect of the universe.
Correct.
And in his understanding and appreciation of what your life ought to be, as Jeremiah once said, since in your mother's womb I knew you. And we also have to understand as well that discipline, structure, and being a part of a system of how one must operate, how the community is to operate. And we also understand that the small things that we hold through and they're growing up does have an impact on what we do as a community and a society later on in life. So that if you know any young person out there who has an interest in any aspect of development or growth or wants to try something new, this is the episode for them to know that, hey, it's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay.
So until we see ourselves, until we have our next discussion, this has been another episode of the Blueprint Podcast.